Yes, okay, thank you very much. And I want to especially welcome Daniella Okereke, who is our speaker for today, for joining early enough, and really do appreciate you for wants to do this. So let's just dive right in. So welcome again, like I said earlier. So first of all, we are starting with, I'm sure most of us that are here knows, of course, you know about the program, just like a reminder, and a reminder of of who we are and everything. So I'll just say that, yeah, this is Inspire Africa, and our mission here is connecting women to create a safe community for African women to connect, learn, grow, and encourage themselves to achieve their full potential. So at Inspire Africa, it is yes for women to connect, to grow, to learn one or two things with like a mentor and a mentee's relationship, not a mentor and mentee in a large gathering, but our mentors are particular about your growth. They fine-tune our learning process to make sure we become someone and for our growth in our all space of life. And our vision is to provide thorough mentorship, guidance, and networking opportunities that will inspire African women to pursue their passion, develop their skill, and become leaders in their professional spaces. To create a safe community for African women to connect, learn, grow, and encourage themselves to achieve their full potential. To be the leading mentorship group for African women through looking to advance professionally. So I'm sure from the start of this program and being as a mentee to a mentor, I'm sure we started seeing this play out. From the start, we did our goal setting. Goals have been created as set for your growth, to be leaders in your professional space. And this month we'll be talking about branding, personal branding, professional branding, to make sure you are being seen as who you want to be seen in all the space you are in, your social media spaces. And last 2 weeks, I guess, our last edition of this edition, I remember we spoke to our IMD came to talk to us about our personal branding and icon tune for our growth and to develop our skills and that's in our professionals. So moving on, just a quick housekeeping rules for us to know what to do so that we're able to have fun and enjoy, not only fun, to be able to let us learn easily during this virtual session. So please mute your microphone when you're not talking. Kindly note that this meeting is recorded. Please raise your hand to ask questions or make comments. Do not interrupt. Any show of hands will be seen and then we'll call on it for anything you might want to say. You can also drop your questions in the chat box. That would also be seen. We encourage you to put on your camera if you are comfortable with it. Kindly use the reaction buttons during the session to show active participation. I would really plead with you for that so that we'll know you are still with us and be sure that you can hear or see whatever we're doing. Yes, and please engage actively in all activities and our surveys. I really quickly add, does anybody have any question or anything to note before I move on? Any question or anything? Okay, no, moving on. Okay. Okay. So for the first session, before we dive into the webinar, please a second, please. We were supposed to have a short. Can you guys still hear me apart from John Nova? Can I see other show of hands? Anybody?
We can hear you, Dami.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we have a quick thank you, Ore. So we have a quick question, just a few question and answer before we start the presentation itself. I just want to And then this one, I would want participants because I'll be asking questions and the first your round will be the one to answer. So if you had randomly asked, just pick out of your head, no, don't have to think about it too much. If you're being asked, like our topic today is managing your money, we say, what is money? What comes to your mind? Anybody? Are they doing? You're still raising your hand. Do you want to say something? Okay. So anybody?
Um, can I speak?
Oh yeah, please say something.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, and I mean, I'm really stoked about our conversation today. I think Elizabeth also had her hands on, so I'll just be quick. So I think money is like any legal, something that is generally accepted that you can use to do any kind of exchange, be it business exchange, like is a legal tender. I think I remember it as far back as economics in school. So I could be wrong, sure. But yeah, that would be what I define as money. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, what you can omit and tell us what you think money is.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you. So to me, I think what comes to my mind is any monetary possession that one would have that allows them to, do transactions or exchange. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Then the second question before we move into that presentation is, when you say money management, what comes to your mind? Like manage money, does it just like keeping your money in bank? Is it just about shares? Like if you say, how do you manage your money? What comes to your mind without having to think too much? Anybody? Do I have to call names? Memory, do you
Hello.
want to say? Hello,
Yes, I think. I
How,
think when it comes to money, what comes to my mind when you say money management, I think it's all about budgeting, how you save your money, how you invest, how you spend your money, basically.
basically, yeah. Okay, that works. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Any other person before we move on?
Hi, good day, everyone. I think money management is the ability to like put your money in things you know that you will still get return on, not just lavish spending. Ability to like invest your money and know that okay, if I do this with my money, I'll be able to get this at the end of the time.
Awesome. Yeah, if I do this, I will get fantastic. Thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate your responses. So quickly, let's move on to our presentation. So I would like to welcome our facilitator. So I'll just read our bio before we move on. Daniella Okereke is a social entrepreneur and human capital development advocate, a physiotherapist by training and an economist by passion. She's the convener of the Emerging Economy and Smart Money Students Both Initiative, better to tackle the socio-economic development crisis Nigeria and Africa at large is facing. Through SMS alone, she has been able to reach hundreds of undergraduates, providing business mentorship, economic awareness, startup funding, and community support. She was recognized by Forbes as one of Africa's elite young entrepreneurs and change makers in Africa. Above all, Daniela is a first lover of God on a mission to share God's light. So here at IH Inspire Africa, we would like to welcome Daniella Okereke. Can I say claps? Can I say emojis? Whatever and ever. Hello. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome, Daniela. So I'll stop sharing so she can start sharing her own screen. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good day from anywhere you're joining us. It's afternoon here in Nigeria. So Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Chidima Oli, for the invites. Thank you, Aurora, for all the correspondence. Thank you, everyone, for here live. So I would just want to ask if it's possible you actually share the slides from your end. I'm using my mobile phone because I don't know, is it possible for you to share my slides from your end? Is that possible?
Yes, it's possible. Yes, it's possible. Just give me a minute. Yes, it is.
All right, so thank you very much. That would actually work. So everyone, thank you so much for having me. So I like very interactive sessions. So I'm just going to be asking a few questions and we are going to be as fast as we can because we have limited time. I really want us to maximize time. So welcome everyone, Elizabeth, Emma, Powa, Joanne, Lydia. I hope I'm getting the names correctly. Adebusola, Memory, Oreoluwa, Rachel, Adedoyin. Welcome everyone. So before my slide comes up, I just have a few questions that I want to ask. So when we talk about managing money, what comes to your mind? Okay, she already asked that, and we actually gave very intelligent answers to that question. So I'm just going to be going right ahead, but along the line, I'm going to be asking some questions. So we could actually go to the second slide. And so one of the things that we need to know is that as African women, one of the problems that we actually have or face is that we are not comfortable enough talking about money. And you know that this was actually captured very correctly by an article by IMF, National Monetary Fund. So they just discovered that part of the challenges we are having in Africa is that when it comes to money, it's just on behavior for women. So we are not very comfortable talking about money. And you know, because we are still that part of the world where everything is almost revolved around culture, family in the context of it. So an average African lady is not bold enough to talk about money because there's always this stigma or something of if you have so much money, people are going to run away from you, especially males. So we just want to kind of downplay it, so we don't really talk about money. But thank God for this kind of movements now. So where African women are actually now becoming very, very comfortable talking about money, and it's actually a very, 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 very good thing. And so I just want to go to it very quickly. Now, is my slide up yet?
Can you see my screen now? Yes, it should be.
Okay, yes, I can see it now. Yes.
Okay.
So let's go to the third slide. Yes.
Is this
okay, so now yes, this is it. So the money rat cycle. So before I even go into the key of what we have for today, I just want to shed light on the money rat cycle. So this is actually one of the leading causes of financial struggle in Africa, in Nigeria, in fact, all over the world. But for us as Africans, it makes it more highlighted because we don't have credit systems, we don't have a lot of those welfare packages that helps people, in other parts of the world, like the Europeans and the rest, manage their finances because of the credit system, even though there's also this rat circle a lot there, but it's easier for them to manage it because the government can always bail you out. But in Africa, we practice a kind of cash and carry economy. So for anything you want to get done, you have to have the cash for it. Buying a house, buying a car, going to school, so many things, unlike, over there that the credit cards can always bail you out. And so that is even why as Africans, we need to be more intentional about our finances, and especially in the context of being African women as well. And so you could see that from this slide, the money rat circle. So you earn, you spend, you work even harder to get money, you get debts before your salary comes, maybe at the end of the month. So even by the time your salary is coming, you just see that there is actually no money for you to spend anymore because of that vicious circle of getting and spending and borrowing. So before your money is even coming to your hand, you've already like, spent all of the money. And so that's why, so this cycle is characterized by expenditure, totaling income, and even in worst case scenarios, your expenditure surpassing what you're able to get maybe at the end of every given month. And a statistic shows that 76% of the world population live paycheck to paycheck, and 67% of people between the ages of 18 to 54 are anxious about their personal finance. And there's also another study that shows that personal finances and struggling with financially and mental health issues, they actually correlate. So there's a high tendency for one to lead to the other. And so because we live in a world that is driven by money, how do we escape this rat race and make progress financially? So in case you're here, you're probably still a working class lady, you're still young, maybe in your early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, whatever the case is. So we're actually in that season in our lives where we're meant to be the most economic vibrant. And so our later years is going to hugely depend on what we're able to make of this current season. So now I'm just going to say this before I go ahead. Everything that you're going to be hearing here, you've probably heard it before. Someone has probably said it to you, but I want you to consciously make the effort today, not just to listen, but to put into practice everything that we're going to be saying. I know that we all know the Pareto principle that 80% of output is caused by just 20% of input. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you don't get everything here, just make up your mind to find what your 20% is that is going to give you 80% of results, in the months and days and years going forward. And so let's go to it. So the next slide here. So now, what is money management? In simple terms, money management is just the practices involved in efficiently stewarding your finances so that it yields the highest possible return. So that's just it when it comes to money management, without all of those big words are trying to make it so complicated. So whenever you hear money management, the first thing that should come to your mind is, how do I efficiently steward finances so that it yields the highest possible return, for me per season. And so now I'm going over to the next slide. So now I'm just going to be sharing with us the 4 principles of money management that everyone here should know. So I'm just going to be keeping it quite basic so that it doesn't get confusing. Like I said, I just want it to be practical, actionable. By the end of this session, you should just leave with what do I need to start doing? What do I need to stop doing? It's just more of a call to sit down, introspect on our finances and know where we're going. Are we going to be happy with the results in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years? And if we're not going to be, so how can we become better stewards of our money? And so the first principle of financial management is income. So there's a golden rule of money management that says, you have to save more and spend less. Do you see? So that's just one of the golden rules of money management. You have to save more and spend less. And there's this mistake that we make a lot, and it's the fact that whenever our income increases, our expenses, increases as well. So that's actually one of the biggest sponsors of this rat race. Automatically increasing your expenses whenever your expenditure comes down, whenever you're automatically increasing your expenditure whenever your income increases. And so that's even why you look at it in a society, there's almost no difference between those who maybe earn below $1,000 and those who earn more than maybe $10,000. According to standard of living, you may actually see a difference because they are going to live in better houses, maybe drive better cars and all of that. But then when it comes to maybe how much you're able to save and invest, you almost see that there's almost no difference, because someone who earns, over $10,000 a month is most likely going to be spending over 70% of that on expenses. And someone who is also earning $1,000 monthly will also be spending maybe up to 70% on expenditure. So what that tells us is that sometimes it's not really that we don't earn enough, but that we are not disciplined enough to actually channel our finances into profitable ventures. And so I would just quickly want to add golden rule, that says save more, spend less. But how can you save more if you don't earn more? So I really just want us to begin to look at ways that we can actually earn more. And there are income that is very important for us to know about. There is earned income, there is passive income, and then there's portfolio income. So as a young person, unless you actually got born into a very wealthy family, or someone just transferred wealth to you, maybe your parents' inheritance and all of that. So the first place that we're always all going to start from is earned income. And so earned income is, income that you actively have to work for. Maybe you do a 9 to 5, you provide services, but you have to actively engage in it. So that's just what earned income is all about. And then we now move over to passive income. And so passive income is, money that you can just make on the side passively without having to, put in that capital of maybe your time, your money, your energy, and all of that. And then the third aspect of income is portfolio income. And so portfolio income is actually that money that you get as a result of dividends of maybe investments, your landed properties, maybe stock market and all of that. So do you see? And so as we're listening, I also want us to begin to think of ways that we could actually increase our finances. I know another problem that we face in this continent, Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, everywhere else, but within this, is that we are a highly dependent population. So what does that mean? So that means that if you can look at it, many of our elderly people from maybe 65 and above, almost 70% of them are dependent on their children to be able to live after they actively stop working. And then even for the younger generation, there's a huge number of people who are depending on one person or the other to survive. And one of the reasons this happens, especially for those, our elderly population, is the fact that a lot of times, many of them did not switch from earned income to passive income and to portfolio income. So by the time they are getting, to their advanced age, to 50, 60, 70, where they no longer maybe have the strength to work as actively, or they've been retired from work, there's nothing to fall back on. So as you listen to this, I just want you to have it at the back of your mind. It's easy to say, okay, this is not going to be me. I'm not going to be one of those. That's very optimistic, but we don't tackle real life issues by optimism. You have to put in the work, you have to put in, strategies, and then you have to follow them through. So for a lot of those people as well, if you can ask them, they will sincerely tell you, I did not in my wildest imagination think that at this my old age. I don't know if you have main markets. We have a lot of main markets here. The one in Lagos, the one in Onitsha. The first time I visited the one in Onitsha is actually one of the biggest markets in West Africa. And so I saw a lot of old people. These were people in their 50s, in their 60s, in their 70s, and some of them were actually pushing, wheelbarrows, and at the end of it, with heavy load. At that kind of age, at the end of it, what would they get paid? Maybe 200 naira, using Nigerian money now, 100 naira, 200 naira. And so you see that it's not a lot of money, and they have to keep doing this in old age. And so I just want you to have that picture in your mind. Maybe whenever you go to a place and then you see these people in that age, you just have to tell yourself that that's not going to be your case. But aside that, what are you going to actively do to ensure that you don't, get into that? And that's also important, because for even an average, maybe working class person now, a lot of times when emergencies, okay, let me not go ahead of myself. So now we are discussing income. I just want you to ask yourself this question wherever you are. How can I increase my income streams? And so because we are talking sustainability here, when you're thinking of how you can increase your income streams, I don't want you to look at it from a standpoint of being a hustler. So what I mean by that is I don't want you to just look for, maybe what you can do to give you, like, I just want you to first of all think big when you're thinking of an income. You're always going to scale, but at the same time, don't think of it as, something that you're hustling into. Think of it of something that you want to build strategically. And so I'm going to say this, in Africa, we have a lot of replicative entrepreneurs, but what we need is more of innovation. And so what do I mean by that? An average African is driven by a need to just make money, to just solve their family problems, their immediate problems. So we're not thinking of, how can I create a solution that, puts Nigeria, puts Kenya, puts South Africa, puts Ghana, at the limelight, in the global economy? How can I do something, because I was going through a research one time. I actually came up with it, and it's actually out there, the revenue that some of these big companies in the US make yearly. So we see some of them, making, just one company making what is an equivalent to the entire budget of, for instance, Nigeria in a fiscal year. And so you see that it doesn't make sense. And so we need to begin to think of things outside of the box. We may have to start small. We may have to, start with something else, build a track record and then scale. But I just want us to think of solutions and not, okay, how can I make the next, money to just sustain me? And then we're thinking of, no shades on the hair business, but that's what a lot of people do. We sell human hair. We are into baking, kitchen, all of that. It's a good place to start from, but we can always think of ways that we can, scale and, do something that really pushes our economy forward, even as we also get forward financially. And then the second principle of money management is when we talk about savings. And, so for savings, you just have to understand that a lot of times, even for the working class population now, whenever there is even just a very slight or a very, maybe someone loses their job for a month, and you can't get another job, you just see that we are not ready to face emergencies, and it's a very, very risky thing. So recently, a few months ago, I was doing a word on the streets advert for people, and I was asking, one of the questions I was asking is, do you have an emergency wallet? And a lot of people were like, no. And I'm like, okay, so what will happen if you eventually lose your job? And they were like, oh, God forbid, it's not going to happen. And so you see, we're actually a optimistic people, but it doesn't just end at that. Everybody's optimistic. Nobody wants anything bad to happen to them, but it happens. So you see, how can you be cushioned against, some of those things when they eventually begin to happen? And so now that we've spoken about how can you earn more, how can you save more, and how can you spend less, now the saving. So it comes down to two things. You need to be able to differentiate your needs from your wants. And no matter what you're earning, no matter how small you think it is, you should just know that for that level, one thing you should understand is that earning more comes with a higher level of responsibility. So what it means that even if what you're earning at this season of your life is not really, enough for you, then it means that you should be looking at what you can cut down as you look at, saving more. So irrespective of what you're earning, you should have at least a benchmark of saving between 10 to 20%, monthly. So 10 to 20% is the base. It's like the base. So if from what you're earning monthly, you can't save up to 10 to 20%, then we really need to now consider the first thing I mentioned. How can I earn more? What can I do to earn more? How can I increase my services? Maybe you're already a food vendor. Maybe you start looking at teaching people how to maybe cook food as well. Can you now look at cooking food for events? Can you now look at, there are just so many things. And the good thing about it is, as you begin to think about it, your mind will want to give you a solution. So you'll be pressed into making more research, into making more connections. And trust me, the switch may not happen overnight. It may actually take a while. But one thing we should all know is that 5 years will come regardless, whether you make conscious efforts or not. 5 years is still going to come, it's still going to go. 1 year is going to come and it's going to go. So you may actually now decide to wish for a new season to come, or work your way through it. So if you're currently in that season where you're actively working to increase your finances, I just want you to be encouraged and, go for it with your whole heart, your whole energy, and, you're going to get there. And so now saving helps you to grow your money, because when you save, you can be able to invest. So I heard a story from Dario of a Nigeria, but she's actually an influencer here in Nigeria. And so she was talking about how she got into the real estate business. And so she had a policy of putting aside, I think, 40,000 naira from her salary yearly. So that's like maybe with the current black market, with the current exchange rate, so that's like maybe $50 every month. And then she was just earning, less than $200 every month, like if we're using dollars, the standard here. And so she was putting that aside every month. So before, she had it in mind that she was saving it for, her first child, which is typical of an average Nigerian person. And she was just going to be putting the money in her account. And then when her child is big enough, she will give it to her. But then she now saw an opportunity to actually buy a land, because someone wanted to make a distress sale for a land. And she did not have enough money to buy it, because she thought she was going to easily get the money maybe from friends and people, and then she'll pay them back later. But unfortunately for her, nobody had money within that season. And so she now fell back on what she had been able to save consistently for the past 3 years. And that's how she was able to pay in a particular percentage of the money that the person requested. And she said a few months later, she revamped the place and sold it for way higher than what she got it for. So what would have happened if she had not been saving, for a long while, to actually have that bulk money to invest in something that now launched her into the, real estate business? So that's all about thinking long term, paying it forward. A tip that can help you in savings, because a lot of us struggle with it. We want to save, but we don't know how to do it, is to automate your savings. So there are a lot of apps that can help you with that. Currently, I use Piggyvest to automate my savings. You could find it on Play Store. And a lot of people, you could also talk to your banks. I know a lot of banks in Nigeria here as well also do that, where you can just tell them maybe the particular amount of money you want them to transfer to another account or something, every month. So now once you can't see a money, so that means, for instance, if you earn maybe $1,000 and maybe you're $600 every month. So what that means now is that you're the money you budget for that month is 80%, which is now $800. So always have it at the back of your mind that your 20% is not for you. If you're a Christian here, of course, you pay your tithe, you do all of those. So after that, any budgeting you're making for the month, don't say, okay, I'm earning $800, I'm earning $1,000. No, after you've paid your tithe, paid your what is it called? Automated your savings. So now you're down to $700. So how am I able to manage it for a whole month? So just have it at the back of your mind that what you actually earn is maybe 80-70% of your income. The rest is you're putting it aside for something more in the long term. And so now I want us to move to the next slide quickly, which is, so I don't know, next, okay, yeah. So I don't know, can we recognize the person in that picture? If we can we just see who he is?
Warren Buffett.
Exactly the one. So that is Warren Buffett. And so when you think about Warren Buffett, what actually comes to your mind? What comes to your mind is a finance guru. And so I'm just going to share a bit of his story with you. So I was reading a book, The Millionaire Mind, and it's actually one of the best finance books I'm going to recommend to anyone. It's not The Secret of the Millionaire Mind. This is The Millionaire Mind. It was written by Stanley Thomas, PhD, if I'm correct. And so there he shared a story. And so Warren actually came from a poor background. His family didn't have a lot. So I know it's easy for us to think when we hear Warren Buffett, oh, he made his wealth from generational transfer. It will actually shock you that over 70% of self-made millionaires made it on their own. It wasn't transfer of wealth from anybody to anybody. So that's just to tell you that you could actually start and get there as well. So he actually grew up from a home where they didn't have enough financially. And so but he was a good salesperson. So he was able to land a job in a company there. And he was like, I think the first or the second highest paid person within the establishment. So his pay was so high. So he went from, being in lack to having so much money. And because he did not have the financial discipline to manage wealth. I can tell you this for a fact that, okay, I'm going to go into that. So eventually, I think a few years later, the company got sold to another business, and so they were looking at the financials, they were looking at the payroll and everything, and so they now discovered that Warren Buffett was actually getting paid a whole lot of money, and they weren't going to be able to keep up with that. So they had to lay him off, and he was just finding out, like, I think when he came to work. So it was actually a very terrible season for him, like the way it was described. And he went from like having a whole lot of money, luxury lifestyle, vacations, and all of that, to not having any money at all. And he did not save, he did not invest, he was not thinking, all this could go away, what am I going to do? And so he was describing that was like the worst moment of his life. And then he made up his mind that even as he gets back to wealth, that he's going to, having had a taste of wealth, he did not want to remain in that state of being poor. And so he now started his own business and all of that, because nobody could employ him and pay him like the kind of money that he already like started getting paid working for that company. And so he said that it took him a while to actually get back to the level of wealth he was coming from, like from the job. And he actually eventually surpassed it, do you get? But the main point here is that, it's easy to think that, oh, Warren Buffett had so much money from the get-go and all of that. So we see a man that we've all come to celebrate, but there's a backstory to it. He actually did not come from a wealthy home, made a lot of money, lost it, and then had to build from the get-go. So that's one of the reasons why you even see that Warren, when you think of him and you read about him, you just see that he's actually quite a frugal person. So it's easy to think, oh, but this man has so much money, why doesn't he spend a lot? He's frugal because, he decided to now give himself to financial discipline and to invest as much as possible. So for now, Warren may not need to work as hard because a lot of his investments pay him enough dividends to keep him going, even if he ever doesn't want to work anymore. And so that's where we should all be striving to get to by the time, we are advancing in age. And it starts from the decisions that we make now. So, Warren started early and it's paying off big time for him. So this story can be said about me, can be said about you as well. And so investment is actually an exponential long-term wealth growth. But you also have to carry out your risk analysis before investing. And so I'm just going to say this. I'm going to be ending in the next slide so we can take our break before we now go ahead. So, but I'm just going to say this now. And what I want to say is, for an average person, when we think about investment, we think about investment as something that can augment what we are making in a month. And that's why a lot of time we fall into scams easily. So something like maybe you meet someone who says something like, okay, I have 1,000. If you can give me $1,000, I'll be giving you 20% of your money every day for the next, 1 year. And so because we think investment as something for the now, something to help us earn more in a given month, we fall into those scams. And so first of all, you have to know that investment is something for the long term. And investment works because of something called compound interest. So it may look like maybe you're starting with $20 in a month, $50 in a month, $10 in a month. But by the time you add it, and then you invest year after year on something even maybe as little as 5 to 10% interest yearly, you actually see that by the time you're getting to your 10th, 20th year, you're actually just like, 2 times 2, 4, 4 times 4, 8, 8 times 8, 64. By the time you're getting to, those multiplications, you're just seeing that something that started as a little seed is now bringing in so much. And so, but you always have to carry out your risk analysis. And one thing that will help you not to, get bonds in investing, so a lot of people have, is when you don't see investments as, a get fast quick rich scheme, but it's actually a long-term way to build wealth. So you may actually go for like, things between low to like medium risk levels, 2%, 5%, 10%, 15%, And I know that there's something about talking about inflation where we're actually at one of the highest inflation levels, and a lot of investments can't actually cover your the inflation that we're actually facing. Well, anyhow you choose to look at it, it's still better than not saving at all and not investing. And it's definitely better than, going for some of those high risk investments and now losing everything. But another thing that you could actually do in terms of investing, you could also diversify your portfolio. And so have, a number of high risk investments, medium investment, and then low risk investments as well, especially because we are young people. So we are able to, recover faster, even if maybe something happens, compared to like if you're already advanced in age. It's always advised that you just settle for low risk investments at that point. And so a report from a pool of 1,400 women investors shows that 9 in 10 women believe money is a tool to achieve their personal purpose. So it may not just be personal purpose, but for some of you here, you may want to, advance your education, get a master's, get your MBA, do a lot of things, travel, and all of that. So you have to begin to save, to invest, to earn more so that these things can actually be realized. And then the number 4 principle is budgeted expenditure. So the truth of it is that we live in a money world. You can't survive without spending. So the only thing that you can do is to budget and spend what is left after you've saved. So no one can survive without spending something, no matter how little. But you go to work, you eat food, you buy data, you're actually going to have to spend. And so there's actually a popular rule, which is the 50-30-20 rule of saving, investing, and expenditure. But please feel free to tweak it, because for me myself, this 50-30-20 doesn't work. So it also depends on the season of life that you're in. So you can always tweak it. It could be 40-30-20, it could be 60-20-10, but anything you're doing just ensures that you're earning more, you're saving more, and you're spending less. And so we just have to train ourselves now. We live in a world, especially, I keep saying especially as Africans, because one of the challenges that we have is that a lot of people don't grow up in wealth. So when you begin to make money, there is this tendency to want to show off so that people will know that you've arrived. And so because we also live in an economy where it's almost like as if people are treated based on how much they earn. So we also want people to like treat us well. So we want to like carry the latest iPhones, drive the latest cars, and go on vacations and all of that. So those things are good, but not at the expense of your long-term financial goals. So one thing I've learned from a lot of self-made millionaires is that they are very frugal. So you have to pay it forward for a while so that you can actually grow in real wealth and all of that. So please just consciously tell yourself you're not going to fall into that trap of wanting to prove a point, and why people may actually think that you're wealthy, you're rich, but on the altar of that you're sacrificing your long-term financial. So I'm going to be ending at this next slide. I don't know if you can put the next slide here. So now it's time to do the work. So I want you to ask yourself these few questions. What are your long-term financial goals? What are your long-term financial goals? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, 10 years? I want you to visualize it. Where do you see yourself financially in the next 5, 10 years? So there is so much power in time, but unknown to us, whether you're actively working towards something or not, time is definitely going to come and go. So the best thing that we can do is to position ourselves in such a way that time actually pays us, so that in the next 2, 5, 10 years, we are not at the same spot or even worse than we were. And so it's not just going to happen by being optimistic. You have to pay it forward. So where do you want to be financially? What kind of job do you want to have? Do you want to be a business owner? What kind of business? What income do you want to be making yearly, monthly, and all of that? So just begin to visualize it. Then the next question is, what purposes do I need to drive what purposes do I need this money to drive? So when you just think about money in a silo without thinking about what you actually want to make with this money, you would actually see that you don't have anything driving you to want to make money. So if, for instance, you're a social entrepreneur and maybe you don't like the marginalization that there is, you know, in your country or where you're from, you know, and then you really want to like step in to help people financially and all of that. So, you know, there's something driving you. Maybe you're seeing that there's a lot of out of school children and you want to put children in schools, or you're seeing that there's a problem somewhere and this thing is driving you. So it's now like a fuel that even when maybe you began to earn enough that it's just comfortable for you for a month, you just remember that no, it's not about myself here. I'm not just doing this because I want to be woke, because I want to prove a point that women too can have their money, not just men, because that's actually not, you know, the best of place to be. So there should be something more, you know, a purpose that you're trying to drive. It may not just be about you, it can be for society, you know, it can be for the kingdom, it can just be for anything. And so now that you know where you want to be long term, what you need this money for, how can you now begin to earn this money? So what's your dream monthly income? This can be, you know, divided into, for now, what is your dream monthly income? In the next 2 years, 5 years, what is your dream monthly income? Is it obtainable? So you could actually tell yourself, okay, maybe I want to be earning $10,000 at the end of every month. Yeah, sure. All right, so how can you get there? You know, so where can you actually, you know, start from? So you have to believe is the key. Is it possible? If it's possible, how can you get there? People that are already earning, you know, that amount of money begin to drive, you know, practical insights from your life. You have to invest in yourself. You have to, you know, there's a lot of things going to that, but because of our time, so you can also begin to ask yourself, what expenses can you cut so you can save more? You know, with the way you're going, can you reach your goals in the next 5 to 10 years? And so it all begins with discipline. So I think we can now go for our first break, and I'm going to be able to wrap up the second session like in the next 10 minutes. All right, so for this interactive session, I don't know if my face can actually show so that I could answer the questions that. Please can you take out the slide so that my face would show? All right, so thank you very much. Thank you. I'm so sorry that you had to listen to this without my face. That would have helped it to become more interactive, but regardless. So I could actually see a question here. So the first question says, where does black tax fall in this cascade under expenditure as well? All right, so this is actually a very important question that I get asked almost all of the time, even yesterday, you know, evening as well, black tax. So the truth about it is, I've actually found a middle ground between both of them, because a lot of people, when they want to talk about this, you know, they go from the standpoint of maybe in the United States, people are more dependent and all of that. But one thing we have to know is that these people actually have, like, you know, for a student, you have student loan, you have the credit card system. So it's hardly ever possible for, you know, you to be stuck, like so down. They have welfare packages, but we don't have any of that here, you know, in the most part of Africa. For my country, Nigeria, we don't have any of those things. So now there's a kind of student loan, but it's kind of shady. I don't even want to go into that. So that just tells you that, like, in Nigeria, in Africa, a lot of times, all we have is ourselves. So you know, all we have is ourselves. But then now, the balance with this is that, you know, like I said earlier on, so if, for instance, now you're earning $1,000 in a month, and, you know, you've taken out your tithes, you've taken out the 10 to 20% of your savings and all of that, and so now you're now working with a budget of, for instance, $700 in a month, or maybe in naira, you know, maybe 70,000 naira. So that informs you to the fact that everything you're making is out of this. So even though you're trying to help people, it should not be at the expense of, because the truth of the matter is that if you're there or not, your family is going to move on. They are going to survive. If things become not so okay for you, they are going to survive. That's just the truth. So as much as we are meant to be there for people and then to help, it's not at the expense. So it's just about wisdom. It's not at the expense of your long-term financial goals. So you can now decide to, out of maybe the remaining 70% that I have left. So I'm going to, use this for my expenses, send this home, because it's actually good to give to maybe your parents. There's actually, if you're a Christian here, there's actually, a reward to it, but not now doing it under pressure. And then number two, okay, all right, that's fine. And then so for number two, this is another strategy that would actually help you. For instance, let's say you have a younger sibling who maybe is always asking you for money. People are always asking you for money and all of that. For instance, those maybe your younger siblings or thereabouts, you can ask them so that we don't even be a part of those who are training, a people that are dependent on us, liabilities, so to say. So that's where the training comes in. For instance, you can ask, what skill do you want to learn? And so I'm going to pay for you to learn this skill, and then maybe I'm going to put you on a stipend for the next 3 to 6 months while you're learning it. And by the time you're done with it, just know that for a while you're just those kind of things. So like, instead of always just giving, how can you empower? In a little way, how can you empower? It may be something as small as paying for a graphic design training, maybe something as small as paying for an online course, on Coursera. Encourage them to learn some of these skills on their own, and support them for a while so they can stand. And so like, those are for like younger people. If it's also maybe for your elderly parents, like if they're still young enough and able to work, what can you do to like maybe establish them in, what can they do from home? People are doing a lot of mighty things from their homes now. So what can be done? So if you've looked at it from this angle, and then you're able to help them to get to start doing something, it may take a bit of a while, because this is actually, even though it's like a longer route, it's a more permanent route that will actually allow you to focus on some important things. So it may take maybe up to 1 year, 2 years, but once you're done with it, at least you've helped these people to find what they can be doing. It will now be easier for you to focus on some other things. But then it also gets down to it, even while you're doing that, take out first your savings. So anything you're giving from, it should be between that, the remaining 70% that is left for you. So you just have to reconfigure your mind to believe that I'm not earning $1,000. What I'm earning is $700, because the other one is not for me. So once you tell yourself that, there is no way you're bringing it out from. And if you can help people put in a place that you don't have access to the money, your brain will just finally realize that this is all that I have. So it's either I increase my income streams to be able to help more people, but I am building for the long term. So I have to, consciously, cut down on what I'm doing for the sake of tomorrow. So I just hope that I was able to answer your question, what I just said.
Thank you very, very much, Daniela. It has really been eye-opening. Like you said, we've heard it before, but like you're emphasizing what we've heard before and making it sticker now. So right now we'll take a quick break of like 10 minutes, like maybe like stretch our legs and do some fun activities. So I would hand over to Ojonugwa now for the quick break session. Ojonugwa, over to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. I don't know, like, I mean, it's possible, as I said, I've heard it before, but I think you have a very effective way of delivering your presentation, and it has really, really been, and I would say, like, they're just really, really been motivating and inspiring to actually listen to you again. And thank you for making it as actionable as possible. So for everybody on the call, we're just going to play a very brief game. We're all going to be here, and it's just going to be 5 minutes then before we hand over to Danielle, because I know she has a lot more to say, and I don't want her to have to leave anything out of what she wants to say. So before we move on, I will just put a link in the chat, and I just want everybody to click that link. Sorry. I have to copy the link again. Yes, I'll put a link in the chat, and then you have to copy the link to access the game that we are going to be playing. And I think I'll share my screen. Yeah. So please join as soon as you can. Once you join, can you just put up your hand so that I know when everybody is done joining the game? That's for those that are interested in playing, right? We're just going to be like 5 minutes. So if you're not interested in playing and you want to maybe take water or something, you can as well stand up. But if you are here and you're interested in playing, you can just put up your hand when you have joined so that I know that you're already on the game. Yeah. So yeah, there's some people already there. Are there more people? Okay, yeah. Right. I'm just going to wait for 1 more minute for any other person that wants to join just before we start. All you have to do, click the link that I dropped in the chat. So, okay, now let me explain the rules of the game. So the rules of the game is you can already see a card in front of you. Please don't do anything with that card yet. So how we're going to play the game is I'm going to be calling out sentences. You can just read the sentences there to familiarize yourself with where they are placed. So for everybody, the arrangement is completely different. Once you click the link, it gives you a very different it gives you a completely different like out. So how it looks on your screen is different from how it looks on somebody else's screen. What I'm going to do is when I start the game, I'm going to be reading out a sentence. When I read out the sentence, you tap that sentence, it will put a sign there. But the only reason why you would tap the sentence is if it's true for you. So if you can relate, if it's like, oh, this sentence is true, tap that box. It will put a sign there. So when you get the sign, I keep on reading the sentences. So the first person that has marked a row, so it can be a row horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. So like if you have marked and it's across or down or sideways, slants, you unmute yourself and say bingo. So it's essentially bingo, but it's like financial bingo, I would say, if anybody's familiar with bingo originally. So that's what we're going to play. So it's really, really a short scene, right? So it's not going to take a lot of time. So are we ready? So it's not, so the thing is, because the sentence are scattered across the screen, right? You may have true for everything, but one person is just going to call bingo before you because of the person's order is in, like, chance kind of happens to everybody. So the person will just be fortunate that all the things that are true for the person kind of line up for her. So that's important. So there are two things you must remember. Only tick it if it's true. And then once you have all your ticks in a row, either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, shout bingo. And that's it. I know you can screenshot your answer and put it in the chat as well for confirmation so that nobody will scam us. That's a joke anyway. But yes, please make sure that once you are sure that you have all your things in your row, screenshot, put it in the chat as well. So yeah, we'll start now. Spent a lot of time explaining. So the first one, if it's true that you track your monthly expenses to manage finances, you can check that box. So you track your monthly expenses to manage finances. So wherever that box is on your screen, just tap it to check it. The next one, you know how to create a basic budget. If you know how, and the point is, when you mark all these things, you're going to explain to us if you're doing now how you do this thing. So it's not like I know how to create a basic budget and then you cannot say what the principle is. If you're the winner, there's one sentence you have to explain for us, whichever the most confusing one is. Then, so two things we've called. You can see them on the screen actually, because I'm sharing my screen. The next one is that you've attended a financial literacy workshop or seminar. I mean, I think everybody gets this one as a bonus. Okay, or no, minus this one, we've attended one before. That's if that's true, tickets. The next one, you prioritize saving before spending on wants. Emphasis on before spending on wants. If that is true, tick. The next one, you have started investing in stock, bonds, or other investments. You have actually started investing. I think that's just the general principle. If you have started investing, tick. Next one, you have negotiated for higher salary or payment. So it's not just salary payment, like you have a business or something and you have negotiated for higher before ever. Tick. Right. Next one, you're familiar with the impact of inflation on finances. I think so. Yeah, if you are familiar with the impact of inflation on finances, tick that box. I feel like someone should be getting close to bingo. But anyway, let's keep going. If you understand the concept of compound interest, I think our speaker Daniela mentioned it just now when she was talking about investment. So if you understand the concept of compound interest, tick. How come we don't already have bingo? Anyway, let's keep going. Next one. If you have explored different types of insurance for protection, the insurance is like, at least at the very least, if you have health insurance, I feel that's like the basic one. If you have, yeah, if you have dabbled into or investigated insurance, tick that for yourself. The next one, if you have a designated account for building emergency savings, tick it. Okay. I hope people are playing this game. The next one, you have set specific financial goals for this year. So if you set specific financial goals for this year, tick that particular box. If you have not, don't tick actually. So if you have not, don't tick. Only if you have, tick. Next one, you have a strategy to manage and pay off debts. If that's you, tick. Okay, then the next call, you understand the concept of opportunity costs in financial decision making. So if you know what opportunity cost is, tick that box. If you don't, just leave it unchecked. Next one, you seek opportunities to increase your financial literacy. So it's not about even financial earning, it's like your financial literacy. It's quite similar to something I've ticked before. But if you do, tick that particular box. This is getting interesting. Next one, you know how to spot and avoid common financial scams. So if you know how to spot and avoid scams, check that box. If you don't, if you're falling for, you just keep falling for scams every month, please don't check that box. Then next one, you have created a saving fund for your dreams or your goals. So if there's something, as Daniela mentioned, driving you, you're already saving for that thing, or you just want to live by the beach, you're already saving for that. Check. If not, or you just want to buy a bag actually. Okay, no, a bag is not dreams, but it's goals actually. So if you want something that is goals or dreams and you're saving for it, check. Next, if you know the difference between wants and needs in your spending, if you don't, if you're like, what is wants, what is needs, I don't understand, don't check. But if you know, check. So really, no bingo yet. Wow, okay. Let's keep going. Because we're like almost at the end. It's quite surprising that nobody has all their things in a row. That's interesting. All right, the next one. If you discuss your financial matters openly with family and friends, check. Yeah, this is one of the things that Daniela said when she started, that people don't talk about money. So I mean, I don't think you should talk to everybody about money, but you should be able to talk about money. So if you do talk about money at all with family and friends, check. If you don't check. Next, if you have researched strategies to reduce unnecessary expenses, check. If you have not, don't check. So if you have already, I don't know, found alternatives and ways to reduce your expenses, you should check that. 20. If you have a strategy to handle financial setbacks or unexpected expenses. So yeah, I think she mentioned it as well, an emergency fund sort of. If you have that strategy, I don't even know if it's, yeah, but if you have a strategy to just do that, check. If you don't check. All right, so it's like we, all right. The next one, oh, it's quite similar. Have you started saving for an emergency fund? So the first one was a strategy. The second one is an actual saving. Have you actually started saving for an emergency fund? No bingo. Oh, wow. All right. That's an interesting group here. Then the next one, if you stay informed about economic trends and their potential impacts. Yeah, like, I mean, Nigeria, things are always happening financially, to be honest. So if you do, check. If you don't, right. Next one, if you know how to read and interpret a bank statement, check. If you don't, there's bingo. All right, because I was already getting worried. Someone just said bingo. If you said bingo, can you actually drop your card number on the chat? If you check your card, you see a number on it to be like 00 something. And as well, take a screenshot of your bingo, please, so that we can see what you bingoed about. But I mean, that's basically the end of the game because we have bingo. But I'm waiting for the response. All right, you should. Oh yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do is I have to share with everybody. This is a personal message. Can you share with everybody? I don't know if you can change your setting. If you can share with everybody, or what I'll just, okay, don't worry, you don't have to share with everybody. I will just share what was shared to me. Let me see what is on my screen. Okay, so yeah, share to everybody. So yeah, we have bingo. So let me stop sharing this, which is quite interesting. So that's it. We have someone who has bingo, and we can see what the result of the bingo looks like. So let me see, what would I ask you to explain for us as the winner of this? This is an interesting bingo. Have a strong strategy. Okay, so yeah, tell us your strategy for handling unexpected expenses. See, that's just the thing. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Oji. Good day, everyone. My strategy for unexpected expenses at times, I will try as much as possible to cut it. Like I'll put it in need. If I said, okay, this is actually in need. At times there are some expenses that can't be cut because it has to be done like immediately. So I take part out of me because I'm actually a business person. So at times I'll check, okay, what have I sold this week? If I remove this so amount from this to like feedback to like do whatever my emergency expense is, won't it fall back on the business? Won't it like tell more, like won't the, like how I say it, won't my gain get reduced, or won't my capital get reduced and stuff like that? So that's what I basically do most times.
Audrey, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you. Thank you very much for playing, everybody. Thank you. I hope you had fun. Did anybody have almost bingo? You can actually share your screenshot of how it looks on your own screen if you did not have bingo. So yeah, it's all for fun and games. So thank you very much. Is our speaker still here? I'm yet to bingo. I feel like she dropped off.
Yeah, maybe you could just continue while I try to like sort out. She's no longer here, but I'll try to figure out the problem.
Okay. Yeah, so it may have been network issues actually. So now I don't know. Now we're finished our bingo. I think, yeah, you guys should, or do you want me to like actually, I mean, it's possible that nobody will get bingo, to be honest. So I don't know, is there like any particular points that was very interesting to you? I mean, most of the statements are actually quite interesting. Let me share. Okay, near bingo. Okay. Oh wow. You actually had bingo, Amazon leadership. I forgot to share that the free space, you had like several bingo, to be honest. Okay, probably poor explanation on my part. The free space is like bingo. Like the free space is actually automatically marked for everybody. So you have even a cross. So you had bingoed vertically and horizontally. Interesting. I'm so sorry. That was, I think I did not explain that particular point, that free space is a bonus space that was supposed to be checked at the start. Sorry. So, oh Mary, yeah. So you have like financial bingo vertically and horizontally. So let me see, what would you explain for us? Let me see. Oh yeah, you have insurance. What insurance do you have? Sorry, if you can either unmute or type in the chat. Because say you have explored different types of insurance. Oh yeah, our speaker is back. All right, so Mary, if you can type in the chat or mute yourself, just insurance. Which one do you have? But while we wait for that response, I feel like she's going to type it in the chat. Welcome. Oh, she has medical insurance. Yeah, that's really smart, to be honest. I feel like everybody should have medical insurance because yeah, while it looks like you're throwing away money, it would actually save you in the rainy day. So welcome back to our speaker, and yeah, I'm handing over to you to start the second part of your presentation now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I hope you all can hear me. That was a very interesting game. So I actually followed before I just left briefly and now I'm back. So thank you so much for that game. It was very, very interesting. So we're actually seeing where we are financially, and so there's a lot to be done. And I believe that we are going to all right, so I'm just going to be finishing up what we started already. So I'm going to be just going quick. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so that's beautiful. So thank you. So first thing I want to say is, again, I just want to also emphasize that when we're thinking about money, so that we are not myopic in our thinking about money, because when you were mentioning, something, you're like maybe a purpose to live for, you want to live by the beach, or you want to buy a bag. So obviously, so even if it's a Louis Vuitton bag you want to buy, like how much is it going to cost anyways? So, but like when we talk about money, it's always just good to tie it, around something, so bigger than yourself that you just know you really. So, something that's just one way not to be myopic when we're thinking about money. But if it's always about your immediate need, with any, 5,000, okay, at least for a while. So, but we should always just, think in terms. And, the beautiful thing about the universe is that if you want it, hard enough, it's always going to come to you. Interesting. I just wanted to also include that. So we're going to run now, and I don't know, one more time, but if you're not, I think I may just run from my own end, and entrepreneurship and financial management. So now we looked a bit at money when it comes to our personal selves, from entrepreneurship and the financial aspect of it. So first thing I want to ask, I just want to ask us a question. So what is the main think about going into a business? Like, what is the main reason you have in mind for wanting to go into a business? So first of all, is it to get money to solve our immediate? And so, the reason for us going into money, like going into business, is actually determine like what we make out of anything money that we are doing, or like, how we are able to push the business and all of that. So if you're just going for this of your immediate needs, then you may not be so much driven, because there's a certain level of financial revenue here that you hit, and you just be so calm, so cool, so comfortable. And so, but if we're looking at innovation, how to solve, I tell people, Africa is actually a good place to go into businesses, because there's a lot of problem on ground. There's a lot of things that we should be getting solutions for. And so, in the whole of Africa, when did we have something like Seller that just, came up, and it's actually solving a big problem for a lot of, products, product makers, a lot of online sellers and all of that. So it just solves the problem of where people can just come. So you can actually see that there's so much we can think of when it comes to businesses. So the first thing I like to say, don't just think about business from the standpoint of making money alone to solve your immediate needs. It should be more than that. What are the problems and what are the solutions and how can I come in? So I very well understand small and then scaling. So regardless, you should always just have a bigger picture. And so now, questions to ask, before going into a business, before we now talk about how you can, actually get some money to start up your business, is what are the, looking at the 4 P's of marketing. So this could actually be what you should be focusing on. So in the 4 P's of marketing, so we first of all have, we have the products. So what do you want your product to solve? What are the problems? Solve, look at everything around you. What are the problems that are the most, right? So, but like, which ones do you think you can solve? Which ones, catch your attention? And then it's also good to, passion is good, but at the same time, you also have to mix it up with, like, does it have a future? Where are we heading to with this in the next 5 to 10, 15, 20 years? Because for instance, you can, but in the next 5, 10, 20, 15 years, is that still going to be out of it? So instead of just maybe now positioning yourself as someone who takes pictures for people, you can be, how can I make applications and help people to edit their photos? So like, there's actually a lot, when it comes to this. So like, even though you're passionate, like, find a way that you can blend it into the future of things of like where we are going to, so that you will not be left behind about what you're actually doing. So I hope that makes sense to us. And then, so now we also now have the place of price, a price to reach, right? So you also now have to do your market research. One of the easiest ways to enter into a market price, so that it gives you a competitive edge. Because just take, for instance, the popular peak milk that almost everyone uses. So when a lot of market, one thing that they did was, they slashed the price. People started as well, and before you know it, you're getting market share for yourself. So so any niche you want to fall into, you need to take advantage from the place of pricing. So like, check what is obtainable elsewhere, and then now check, so what is the minimum that I can go that can cover the cost of production. Who I work with, the person I work, maybe one person for a start, and then as we scale, and still help me to have something, have to look at promotion, like how you're going to promote your business, the kind of way that you want to go about promoting it, and then finally location, the place. Is it something that can be sold digitally everywhere? Is it just bound to a particular? I just went into all of this so that when we are even thinking of like entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship simply is just all about to get money. So let's not always just be so driven, first of all, about the monetary aspect. One thing I always say is that money is just what do they mean? Just a side effect of solving a problem. So one day when I was thinking about money, I just got an inspired thought, and should I say, okay, so in an inspired of exchange. So it's a side effect of doing something. And so if you're not doing it, you're not going to get it. So I always say this because a lot of people in Africa are driven first by money, and it will most likely always get you born, and you will never think about long-term in your planning. And everything happens in long-term thoughts. And so how can you now get funded? Number one is one way that happens for a lot of people, even myself when I started a business, is bootstrapping. So you have to, talk to family, friends, relatives, people who will be willing to support you. And this is actually the most friendly of them all, because, once you bootstrap, there's a high chance that a lot of those people are not going to tell you, pay me back. They're most likely going to want to just give it to you for free. And one beautiful thing about bootstrapping is this. Now, there's a way you can go about it that makes it very interesting. So you may not want to spam people with messages that they may not respond to, but you could actually have a sample of what it is that you're doing. There's something about when people can visualize what you're telling, what you're talking to them about. Do you see? So it makes them believe it's more, because for people to buy into your story, there is a logical component of it, and then there's the visual aspect of it. There's also the emotional part of it. So like, if you want to appeal to their emotions, you have to like show something, even the logic as well. You really have to show something. And so instead of just doing the way that, because I know you may be saying, oh, I've tried it, nobody listens to me. So number one, you have to maybe, if it's something you could, maybe show them an example of, this is what I have in mind, this is it, you're helping them to visualize what you're talking to them about. So it's easier for them to. Number two, that's why people do things like campaigns, for instance, they launch books, they do these things, and through it you're trying to like raise funds for something you're trying to do. So you just have to be creative about some of these things. The second one is personal finance, and so it comes from, have you saved, have you invested, you want to start something, you have to have something you're putting into it yourself. Because recently I had a project that I wanted to do that was going to cost me a significant amount of my income. And guess what? Because I was able to like raise a significant part of that money, it was easier for people to support me, because I was like, this is what I have, this is what I want to do. And that also brings me to a place of track record. You have to also have a positive track record of integrity of what you've been doing. So because this is not the first time I was doing that, because I reached out to undergraduates in the community. So this is not my first time of doing that. So people have already seen, I said this in 2020, we've reached out to people, so there's a lot of evidence out there. And so when I'm reaching out to like, members of my family and all of that, I'm like, this is what I have, this is what we're doing. They're always very, very willing to support. Do you see? So you also have to like have that track record. It's very, very important. It will help people to want to listen to you and to support you in what you're doing. And so the third one is partnership. So we have to be open for collaborations, for partnerships, to get partnerships into what we are doing. So you mustn't do everything in a silo. You can always just reach out to people. Again, with a project I just did recently. So I reached out to people, and I had a team of close to 8 people working on it. So it made everything easier. So if you have a business idea, you can always pitch it to someone, and so the person may not just financial, both of you may actually split everything 50-50. So but that way it makes it easier. So we need to get to it. Collaborating, everything mustn't have your name to it, everything mustn't be about you. You could always way to get things done. The fourth one is venture capitalism. So but for you to actually get finance through this way, you need to have a track record. So like I said, there's nothing you want to start that your personal money will not get into. In the beginning, you have to spend on it, and you have to have your financials, you have to have a business plan if you want to go into venture capitalism. So like mostly it has to be something you have started and at least have an MVP. So there's actually something else we're working. So but to cut the long story short, this is more of like a stressed something. And then the fifth one is loans. But like you said, I boldly put it by the side there, no, because if it's something you're starting, getting a loan for it is like shooting your in Nigeria or like a lot of African countries, our loan interest is so high, and almost from the third month. It's crazy because it simply is not visible. You may not even have gotten enough money yet. You may not yet have created enough awareness. So it's just almost like setting yourself up for failure. If maybe you're trying to scale your business, I may be like maybe, but even at that, loans should always be, the last thing you're looking into. It's even better to like go into venture capitalism and maybe give out a certain percentage of your company than to get loans to like start up a business. A lot of people, there's a lot of case studies of that, and it always, always almost ended in tears, like premium tears. And so you also just need to have it in mind that you should start small. Still, starting small does not mean it shouldn't be excellent. So start small but excellently, and then scale. So like within the first 2 to 3 years of your business, you have to minimize expenditure, reinvest back into your business. Don't make that mistake of, we're making as the money is coming, you're spending it. You have to reinvest. That's an easy way to scale. So reinvest. So, how much are you making in a year? You have to, use the balance sheet, what comes in, what goes out, what are we using to pay staff to get the equipments we use, the materials, how much are we reinvesting? If possible, put yourself on a salary. It may not be a whole lot in the beginning, but it's because you're building towards the long term. And so organize your business financials. If you ever want to go for venture capitalism, get a loan or get, funded through grants, you need to have a registered business, very important. And it's very easy these days. You can even do it by yourself online, register your business, or you can find, someone for Nigeria, it's corporate affairs. There are also people, CAC, but depending on your country, register your business, manage your cash flow, what comes in, what goes out. And I'm just going to share some of the tools that you can use to do that in the next slides. So I'm going to be sharing some tools. So for savings, you can use, next slide, please. So for savings, you could actually use Optimus. Then there's Ladder NG. Then there is PiggyVest. Next, okay, yeah. So for savings, there is Optimus, there is Ladder NG, there is PiggyVest, and some of these platforms actually gives you up to 10% on savings. So if you look at it, it's actually wiser than keeping your money just there in your bank and it's doing nothing. So you can use Optimus, Ladder, Piggy, and get up to 8 to 13% on your annual, savings. And so now for investments, for savings, I currently use PiggyVest. I also have Optimus downloaded, but I'm still trying to figure it out for now. Then for investment, there's Bamboo, there's Robinhood, there's Afri Investor 2.0. And so I also have Bamboo. So Bamboo is an Afri investor, but I'm still trying to figure out Afri investor. So for now, it's Bamboo for me. And so I also include in this place, please invest in yourself. If you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, that's what will pay you the greatest dividend because you're building capital in yourself. And, it's going to pay you the highest in the few years. And that's why it's good that you're, in this mentorship series, you're investing in yourself. You're growing your network capital, you're growing, and it's going to pay you the biggest dividend. So even before we begin to look at some of all these other investments, make sure that you're investing in yourself because you're the entity that is going to house it all. So if you don't invest in yourself, you may just see that you may think you're making progress, but you're not making any progress. So we all have to invest in ourselves. And then, so for your business finances, maybe you're a business owner, and then you're asking, okay, so how can I, manage my finances easily, checking cash flow, income, expenditure, and all of that. So we have apps like Zero, and then we have QuickBooks as well. They're actually very easy to use, and you could just find them, download them, and make use of them. And so the next slide. Okay. So we've come to the end. So we could just connect on LinkedIn, on IG. And thank you so much for being a part of this session. So I think at this point, I'm just going to hand it over to Aurora or Chidima. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Daniela. Thank you very, very much. This has been a very insightful session. Sorry, Aurora had to drop off because of battery issues, Nigeria. So her devices died off. So, but I'm happy to yeah. So I'm happy to continue like wrapping things up. Thank you very, very much. Oh yeah, so it's actually time for question and answer. Actually, and you already have. So please, yeah, thank Daniela. You can react and everything. So it's time for questions, right? There's a question in the chat. There is a hand raised. So I'll go with the hand raised first, then we'll go to the chat. So I didn't you have a question for Daniela. Can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniela. I really appreciate and I've learned a lot. But my question is like this. Okay, I want to make myself an example. I'm actually an 100% business person. So saving at times is actually not really possible in the sense that when I started, I was like, okay, every of my gain every month, I'll be saving at least 10%. But later I come to realization that because it's that same money I'm investing, so saving seems impossible. Because at times you'll be like, okay, if I'm like, okay, let me save 10% of the 100% after removing my tithe and everything. I'll be like, this 70% won't be enough because of most time when I go back to the market, things will get more expensive. And since when that's just the only place where my finances are actually coming from. So I reinvest again. So please, Ma, what can be done in this kind of situation?
All right, thank you so much for asking that question. It's actually a very important question. So just a few things that I'm going to mention. So one of them is, for instance, if you're a business person, so there's actually, that point of every now and then evaluating our pricing strategy. Because the truth about it is that currently now, if maybe you were selling something 1,000 naira before, you can't sell it that way anymore. So you need to evaluate your pricing strategy, number one. You may not have to just increase it so significantly like overnight, but you have to factor in inflation, prices of things are going up. So if people are expecting for the people actually are expecting for the prices of things to go up. Do you get? So you have to factor that in, to put that into perspective, and a lot of times as business people, we are afraid to put a price, to increase our prices. But if we're thinking about building something that is sustainable in the long term, then you know that you need money to drive it. So that is point number one. Try and check your pricing strategy. Factor in, what you spend, pay yourself if you have pay
I'm sorry, I think we've lost her, but I think she'll join back, just network issues. So let's give her a bit.
Okay, so I think probably while we're waiting out, I think was it Lydia earlier that asked how we're able to spot scams? Can you hear me, Oji?
Yes, I can hear you, Chidima.
Oh,
Okay, she's
okay.
joining back now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'll just pause then.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I just realized that I was no longer in the call.
Yeah, sorry, I think it's network. Yeah, you're welcome back.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So where was I? Okay. So I was answering that question. Oh. Yeah. So yeah, I remember now. So I was saying that, for instance, if you don't have, like, something saved, you may be tempted to go and take out from what you're investing in. Like I said, investment works because of compound interest. So, like, the longer it stays, the better it does for you. And so, like, now having that in mind, so like I said, first thing, you have to, work on your pricing strategy. Number two, I get it that, what you have may not be enough. So you also now have to, like, also think creatively out of the box. Is there a ways that you could actually, maybe use your customers' money to, like, maybe, get the materials you need and all of that. But the whole point of it is that if you're not saving, then you're not really building sustainably, because something may happen. So, like, when that happens, so what's now going to happen? So look at your pricing strategy. Then maybe for your investment, if it's possible, you can still be, putting what you're putting in investment. It's just a thing of percentages, but it's always good to have something safe. So even if it now means, maybe instead of maybe investing, like you said, I think you said 10% every month, maybe you're now making it 8%, and then you're saving 2%. Or very importantly, please work on your pricing strategy, because at least you should have something that you can save every month from your business, that you can save consistently, so that in case of, like, emergency, something happens, you can be able to, like I said, investment is long term. So that money for now is not your own, it's somewhere. So when you're, planning these things, you just have to just sit down. How can I, incorporate savings into now? You've understood that investment is important, so you have it in your plan. But now, how can you incorporate saving? What is going to need to go out? What do I need to increase my price to? Even if it's just 5%, I'm saving every month from my business, just for tomorrow, in case maybe an opportunity comes out. It's not yet time for me to get my dividend from my investments, so that you can be able to be a part of the opportunity. Sorry, this whole network thing just, took a lot of, I really got distracted. So I just hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much. I think yeah, Donika, has she answered your question? So while that Mary has her hand up. Do you have a question, Mary? I think you can now ask a question.
Hi, OJ. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Daniela, for explaining on finances and managing your finances. I actually learned a lot. So I think I'm in a bit of a confusion when it comes to the returns from shares and stocks. I think for about, let's say, 8 months now, I've been consistent with buying of stocks, shares of different companies, both Nigerian based and US stocks. But the issue I have is, like, the returns. Sometimes I see that this stock or my portfolio has grown, let's say 50%. And then the next time I'm seeing that it has dropped again, like about 20%. So is it possible to take out that money, let's say when it grows to our 50%, would it remain the same? Because sometimes I'm like, this money is growing and then it's coming down again. I really do not know what to do. And then the second question is, if you are in that is linked to the first one. So if you're in the long term for stocks and shares, do you leave it totally, like, don't mind about it going up and down and wait for, let's say, the expect or your own expected date? Let's say you give yourself 3 to 5 years for the stocks before you can now touch it. How do you go about it? Yeah, that's my confusion. Thank you.
All right. So That's a very interesting question. That's a very, very interesting question because I've actually been there myself. And so, but I'm just going to say a few couple of things. Number one, it's always very good to have a financial advisor. So for me, like what I do sometimes is because actually, I get the point of, when you buy a stock at a small amount and before you know it's going up. And then after a while, like it comes down again, and you're just wondering. So like even just using like, my experience in also the crypto market as well. So number one, for instance, there's a tool I'll recommend to you. It's called the Monthly Food. So, but it's actually a subscription based tool. So it gives you like stock market prediction and all of that. And so it's also good to be like in those kind of communities as well. Trusted people, please. So this one I just told you about is like it's a US company, and you could actually check it up online. So, but the risks about taking your money and because actually if you take it when it's at an increase and you now wait for it to fall and buy again, like the number of stock you have like would increase. Like I don't know if you're trying to get what I'm trying to say. But now the risks involved with that is that it may be doing a 50% increase and then you take it out and then it goes to 100 and then it remains there for a long time. So what that means is that if you're now buying again when it's at 100, like the value of stock you had would have reduced because it's now higher, and so you can now buy just less of what you actually had. But then sometimes it works because when you take it out at where it is, it will now come down. So when you now buy again, you now have more, of that particular stock. So I get it. So that's why I'm just going to say, if you belong to a verified community, it will actually very much help you to know. And then maybe you have your eyes looking at the stock market to know, are we in a bullish time? Currently, it's kind of bearish. It's just slightly a mix of both. But we've not yet really hit the bull run. So like during the bull run, like everything is going to really go high. So like we're just having a lot of fluctuations. It's going up, it's coming down, and all of that. And so the other time we had like a massive bull run was in 2021, just after the COVID, like crypto everywhere. Like there was so much, and all of that. And then we now entered into the bear season. And so we are still currently there, but there's a lot of predictions that there's going to be another bull run in the next coming months. So that's just number one. So number two, it also depends on the kind of stock that you're buying. So like if you're buying majorly some of these new stock, like those ones, they are the ones who normally come up and go down. But if you're buying from like most of those other standardized ones, they actually, even if they drop, the drop is not so significant, and so like they grow progressively over time. Do you see? So those are like the Teslas and the rest of it. I don't think those ones that they're actually more expensive, so you need a lot of more capital to do that. And then also you could also now look at buying stocks that have dividends. So there are a number of stocks that actually pay you dividends, monthly. I don't know if it's monthly, because I don't really buy dividend stocks yet, but people like the Financial Jennifer, they emphasize on that a lot. So I think Coca-Cola is one of them. There are a lot. If you actually Google it, you'll find out, those ones. So those ones, they are more consistent. So maybe once they pay your dividend, you could just always reinvest. Okay, someone said empty in a hair. You could always just, reinvest into it again and again and again and again. So all of these things, it also comes with a level of financial risks, especially the stock market, because it's so volatile. You could put in $1,000 and before your very eye is gone. And if you could just leave it for like the next couple of months, it comes back, goes higher, comes back again, and all of that. So one thing I'll say is, number one, also invest in ETFs. Those ones, they are better because it's like, different on Bamboo, because I use Bamboo. Bamboo has, listings of ETFs. So ETFs is like, it's different stock in a basket. So those ones are actually also usually more stable over time. So, but like a lot of people actually do day trading in the stock market. So if you're doing day trading in the stock market, then yes, I would advise that as you get an interest, you take it out, put it into something else, like within the stock market as well. So people do that daily. So once there's a significant increase in what they do, they take it out. But if you're thinking more of like long term, then you may actually want to go for more of those stable stock, or even if maybe what you bought, please do analysis on the company you buy from. When, for instance, on Bamboo, you see like the highest they've gone, the lowest they've gone. You see write up about them. Do your research. What, like, this company, what they are into, is it what has a future? You get some things now that if you're going into it, it's just a waste of your time, because some of these companies actually come there to, at the end of a while, they'll file bankruptcy and you lose your money. So you really have to go after companies that are really going to be there for the long time. So if you're doing long-term investments, and please, as much as it lies within you, just get counsel from a financial advisor, someone who is really grounded in the stock market, because there's a lot of tricks, going on there. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I don't know, Mary, did that answer your question? I feel like it definitely would have had to, because it touched different points. I don't know if there's any other question from anybody. I kind of dropped out of the meeting, so I've lost the chat. So I don't know if somebody dropped something there that is unanswered. Okay. Yeah, so Mary says thank you. So I feel like I have to say a very, very big thank you from all of us at Inspire Her. Can we show appreciation, clap emoji or something? Please use your reactions to clap for our speaker, because I feel like she has done really, really, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I feel like she has done really, 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 really great. Thank you so very much. I'm trying to find my presentation. Not my presentation, but like the slide I'm supposed to be sharing now.
Thank
So,
you, everyone.
finally, okay, sorry. Do you want to say something to wrap up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all for having me as well. Thank you so much, Chidima. Thank you, Aurora. God bless you. You're doing a great job as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for gracing us with your for actually coming to speak to us today. Has been really, really helpful. We are supposed to have a survey, so I'm going to share the link to a survey. Sorry, my screen is all over the place. A link to a survey about this webinar for everybody that is in attendance now, to share like your feedback on how it was delivered, and how, if it was perfectly done, it was a way to have done it better, all those kind of sort of feedback. So I'm just going to get that link now. Sorry, so many tabs. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Memory has a hand up. Memory, do you want to say something?
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to give a short comment.
Okay.
I don't know, there's a book, Smart Money Woman. It also helps for us, most of us that are still on this journey on financial management and trying to figure out how to save, how to manage our money. That book, Smart Money Woman, also helps, because there are some tips that are there, whereas you can track how you spend your money. For instance, you can use the bank statement to see how you spend your money, or you can list down some of the expenses that you usually have, and then you can see how you spend your money, and then you can actually try to see some of the unnecessary expenses that we actually spend our money on. Then maybe you can also try cutting from some of the expenses. That will also help in saving money that you have.
Thank you very much, Memory. I don't know. I mean, I've personally read Smart Money Woman. I've also watched the book I've read the book, I've watched the series, because they have the series on Netflix, and it's really interesting too. So I don't know if our speaker has other suggestions or kind of approves of Smart Money Woman. I know you've mentioned quite a number of resources. Do you have other things you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, I've actually read Smart Money Woman myself, and it's a great read. It's a great book, and it's practical and it's entertaining. So it's actually good if you could read it. So like I already recommended one book, The Millionaire Mind. So it also gives you like practical aspects into how, self-made millionaires. It was like a research book, self-made millionaires who made it, like how like a lot of the components they save, they invest, all those kind of things. So it's very practical as well. This one now is not a story, it's more of like a research book. So it's very interesting. If you could also get it, try your best to get it. And then there's also this other app that you can use to track your expenditure. I think I'll get the name, but I think it's called, is it Money Manager on App Store? You just download it. So what happens is every day you get notified to put in how much you spent. And so at the end of maybe a year, like 6 months, 3 months, they're going to show you like how much you have spent and what you spent it on. So yeah, the balance sheet, I recently also just got my statement of accounts. Is very important. So you see how much has come in, how much has gone out, and what you've spent on all of that. So yeah, these things are actually good. And you mustn't even get your statement these days. Online banking, a lot of banks, you could just check a range of, for a certain duration of time, your expenditure and all of that. So yeah, it actually works as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Memory, for sharing the book, and thank you to our speaker Daniella for adding more. So I think I'm going to read that Millionaire Mind. I like research-based books. Chiduma, you have something to say? Because your
Thank you
hand is
very
up.
much. I was going to say thank you very much, Daniela. It was really, really awesome. It was mind-blowing. I know our time is fast spent, but I think I wanted to ask a question okay, so oftentimes one of the things people say is I'm not able to say, for instance, because I'm not making enough money. So if you're making like 40K in Nigeria, 50K in Nigeria, and then you're spending with the whole transportation stuff, and this is beyond, of course, we're looking at Africa as a larger context. So, and by 40K, I mean 40,000 naira. So, um, you're not making enough money. How do you save for rent? How do you save for that? So oftentimes, because I saw something on Twitter, someone was like, "Oh, you're not doing poorly. You're just not making enough money." So how do you save in that context where, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have a lot. So it's like, I can't save. I don't even have money to fend for myself.
So yeah, so I got your question, and it's a very interesting question. And sincerely, bringing it down to, like, let me just narrow it down to Nigeria. Our minimum wage is currently at, I think, 30,000 naira in a month. And so you actually have a lot of people who are earning around that range. So it's just maybe in the percentage of people who are earning above, when you actually said 40K, I actually thought you meant $40K. I don't know you're talking about 40,000 naira. So so like I actually have a lot of people in that jurisdiction. So like when I began, I said something, there's always this golden rule that is preached that spend less, save more. And so boy, I added earn more. So if we're to be very sincere, we need to increase our earning potential. That is one way. And that is just one way, like, that we can all live this. Because, for instance, there's more that you can do. And I feel like sometimes what we miss it is that we are just thinking about now. It's okay if maybe you're earning a certain amount for now, but it doesn't have to be that same way 2 years to come, 3 years to come. I don't know if that makes sense. So within that, now that's why I also said that 50, 30, 20 may not work for everybody, because it's not everybody that has up to 50% to spend on their wants or their need in a month. It's not visible for an average African, an average Nigerian. It's not just, so that's why I always say tweak it to how it works for you. So if, for instance, now what you're earning in a month is 40K, the essence of it is that you are building a conscious mindset, a conscious discipline that would help you as you scale, as you put your mind to earning more. And so, like I also said, having it at the back of your mind, like, what else can I do? Even if maybe you're working as an assistant in a company, what else can you do within your spare time? Even as you're there, what else can you do? to like now increase your earnings. That is number one. And that's where I started from. Because actually we're talking to, like, when you're talking about wealth in Africa, you need to understand that a lot of people are not even earning enough to begin with. So that is point number one. Then point number two, like I said, your responsibility is always almost around, like, you can always manage it within what you earn. Because like I said, there is almost no difference between someone who earns 40K in a month and someone who earns 400K. Now, let me explain that. There will be a difference in the standard of living, because this person will like go to, more expensive places, probably have a car, have a nicer apartment. But someone who is earning 40K in a month, like, because I was talking with someone recently, and then the person was like, where the person, okay, one of my mom's workers, and the person was like, where she made her hair, I think she paid, was it 400 naira, 400 naira, or 500 naira for that kind of hair? And we're like, is it still in this same Abuja? Because it's another place that you go to and then you make that hair for like 3K or 5K, do you see? So like by the time you're now like converting it like based on where you are, you could see that someone who is earning 400K, some of those people, they cannot still manage their finances. Every month they're still looking for, how can I get more money? Because expenses is a lot. But then someone who is earning 40K too may also be in that same situation. So it just boils down to the fact that it's not really about how much we earn, but like financial literacy. Because if you're earning 40K, obviously you're not going to be living in a house that the house rent is like maybe 500K in a month. It's probably going to be a place where it's 100K, 150K. And you'll be shocked to see that there's a lot of those kind of places everywhere. Do you see? So everything is just always about, even while you're thinking of how can I earn more, but in the season that you currently are in, how you can maximize what you have and save towards living that financial circle. Because that's what makes a lot of people to end up in a financial circle. Like you're born into it, you stay in it, and you never get your way out because you never think, how can I live it? And sometimes you have to, as little as it is, save your way out. Now, your saving may not be, I'm saving for a dream vacation. Maybe I'm saving every month because I need to get 100K to go and register for a course that is going to upskill me so I can start searching for a job remotely. It may be I need to save, 5K so I can get a laptop, and maybe, the only thing is that like you're going to have to save for a longer time, but there's just something in your mind that I'm saving so that I can, first of all, in this season, earn more, so that maybe after I now have not started earning more, I can now begin to focus on building for my long-term financial goal. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes absolute sense. Thank you so much, Danny.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Danielle. I don't know if there's any other. I think there's one last question that somebody dropped in the chat while we're in between stuff. Person talked about spotting scams. So I think this will be the last question. Like, how can people spot scams so that people are not victim of being defrauded of their hard-earned money? Is there any practical thing that you do?
Yes, like I said, scam, the reason why a lot of times we fall into scam is because even when we think about investments, we're thinking of it as a get-rich-quick scheme. So there is just something in our mindset about investment that makes us think, okay, if I start saving, investing, by the end of this year, I'll be a millionaire, or I'll be whatever, like it is. Okay, yeah, millionaire is standard. So it doesn't work that way. And then that's why we get burnt a lot, because with that in mind, you're now going to be looking for what can give me 20% increase yearly, or monthly. And so we are now always going to fall into scams, because another thing I also want to say is that currently, because of the level of hardship everywhere, people are going to get more crafty and more intelligent in their way of doing scam, to scam people of their hard-earned money. And so one thing you should always have in your mind is that investments are not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a long-term thing for your financial security. So when you have this already in mind, there are a lot of things that when you see online, you just know that this is not obtainable. So number one, when you're carrying out the risk analysis, number one, you have to, first of all, look at the sustainability of it. If someone is telling you that I'm going to give you 10% monthly, 20% monthly, what business are they investing it in? And the what they lie a lot to use is that they're investing in forex and in the stock market. But if you know forex and the stock market, you know that the income there too is not also very predictable. It's not something that somebody can consistently pay you 20% every month without you hearing stories. So, with that in mind, a lot of things will be eliminated from your mind, because how are these people getting this money? It is almost not possible. Do you see? So, number one, check out how sustainable is it. Like, check their business models. What is it that they said they are doing? Is it agri-tech? If it's agri-tech, do research on it. What are they selling? Like, understand the entire process. Number one. Number two, very sincerely, when we're talking about investment, they are high risk investments, and those are the ones that pay the highest dividends, maybe up to 50% in a year, thereabout, but they also come with the highest risks. So number two is to also, and then even when we're even talking about high risk investment, we're talking about things like stock, we're talking about things like crypto, we're talking about, those kind of things. So it's best you learn it yourself. Then, I spoke about, diversifying your portfolio. For high risk investment, you don't need to put a lot of your money into it. You need to put in something that, even if worst case scenario, it's not going to burn your entire investment portfolio. And if it's best, all these things of someone is investing for me, if it's not some of these popular companies that they're actually into wealth management, they invest for you and all of that, you have a financial advisor. If it's all these people who are just starting up and are just trying to do something, please don't entrust them with so much of your money that if anything happens to it, you're going to, there was a time that mutual funds in Nigeria was paying so much. If you just put in money and you lock it there, government does business with it and then they pay you. But now the investment is down to, I think 2 to 5%, yearly. So, but that's what an investment is. You're getting 10%, you're getting 15% in a year. Those are what investments are. It's not how you can double your money in a year. Most times, those are get rich, schemes that will actually, end in so much premium tiers. So, like I said, there's no end to investing in your financial knowledge. It will get to a point where you could actually now begin to afford, services of, real financial analyst and, someone who is going to manage your portfolios and all of that. So, but until you get to then, always just know that you're not trying to get rich quick. If you're trying to get rich quick, after a while, invest in a business, grow your business, scale your business. What I'm talking about investments is long-term balance, so that as we advance in life, as we get to our 50s, our 60s, our 40s, we can still be empowered financially and, do a lot of things that we want to do. And investment is also so that you can raise your capital to maybe throw it into a business, throw it into something bigger, but it's never a rich quick scheme. So once you have this in your mind, it would automatically take out a lot of, things that will want to come and take your money. So for me this year now, I invested more in land. And then also I'm looking at this, the stock market, because it has been in my mind for a very long time as well. So I hope that this answered your question.
Thank you. Yes, it did. Thank you so very much. I mean, we've definitely we've gone over time, bust the time, everything. But thank you. This has been a very enlightening session for me and very practical, actionable as well. So we're done with that. I've shared the link for the evaluation and feedback as well. So please kindly take a minute to talk about this. I know you may drop a comment at the time, but if you feel like it was fine, you can also reassure us that, well, even though you shot above time, we still learned a lot, so we don't mind. So thank you. So I'm not going to recap because it was it was a packed session. Every line was noteworthy, to be honest. A lot of notes to take away from this particular session. So what I would say is, I think one of the things that she pointed out that has really stuck with me is that it's a long game. Whatever you're doing now is a long game. Once you bear that in mind, I think you will make the best financial decision. That's for me. I'm going to bear that in mind, and I think it will help me make the right financial decisions. Whether it's investing, whether it's saving, whether it's expenditure, I'm doing it for the long-term benefits. Not too long, but 10 years is quite long enough. So once I'm patient with it, I know that I would get the results. All right, just made it fun. So yeah, let's talk about the upcoming events. So we had a mastery session 2 weeks ago on personal branding, this on financial management. We would be having one next month on networking. So yeah, so follow us if you are new, if you are a guest and you're not actually on the mentorship program. We always bring like exciting seasoned speakers actually to come and deliver on their talks. I mean on the topics, whatever topics we're handling. So they're talking, we have an amazing speaker lined up. Publicity will start soon and as well registration. So if you follow us on social media, you get all the details. Also invite people. Like this has been very valuable. It's actually invaluable. So please tell people we're doing it for free, and I know that what you've learned, like what a lot of coaches will tell you, and you still haven't paid money for it. So I feel like you should be able to extend this to everybody. Yeah, and like you owe it. That's something you owe people actually, to spread the message about this. For the mentees on the program, they have been going through your task, and I just wanted to share that those who are signing up for accountability partners, start closes today. So if you haven't signed up for an accountability partner and you're a mentee and you need one, please register for that. And yeah, I think that's the announcement for the mentees. I don't know if there's anything else. Then just for everybody, if you want to stay connected to us, you can scan this QR, scan this code link.
Okay.
Someone is unmuted and obstructing. Okay, anyway, so scan this and then our link tree always has all our information, right? And how you can also follow us to stay updated. And that essentially brings us to the end of this. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for learning.